let's meet the originator of Candid Camera, Alan Bunt. The sweetheart of Candid Camera, Dorothy Collins. And your host, Durward Kirby.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candid Camera. Now, tonight, our program will be devoted to a most unusual Candid Camera visit, right to the very heart of Moscow. And now it's our pleasure, once again, to bring you something a little different on tonight's Candid Camera show. You know, in the past, we have always moved around a good part of the world. Oh, we've catching people in the act of being themselves all over the globe. And in addition to thousands of miles within the United States, the Candid Camera has been concealed in France and in Germany, in England, Denmark, and also in Italy.
All of the scenes in tonight's show were photographed in one tiny part of the vast Russian country, just a few square miles around the Kremlin. Now here you see a crowded street in downtown Moscow. This is what we photographed from the car coming from the airport to our hotel. You notice that there are many shoppers, good number of soldiers, very few cars, and they're kind of unmindful of the cars because there's so few of them. But here you see Russians quite close. Hey, Mac! Before we got our land legs and our courage, we tried to do some photography from the balcony of our hotel. There you see the hotel window, and this is the Kremlin and the large square, which we could see right from the window. Notice the size of the square and how relatively empty of cars it is. There's a 14-lane highways, and here you see one policeman supervising this intersection. Now, these are just some of the random things that we could see with our telephoto lens, and you'll notice that we simply skipped around from one place to the other. Wherever we looked, we saw women working. These ladies tending the gardens. They're almost every kind of job is handled by a woman. Here they carry packages across this enormous intersection in little dolly carts. And this most unusual street cleaner with a broom that looks like it belongs to a witch. But she's cleaning that enormous intersection as though it was a tiny part of her home. Now we spotted this woman and noticed she's cleaning these windows without a safety belt. And
just by holding on?
Well, she's holding on to the window ledge. And now take a look at where she was working.
Holy smokes.
Now, I can't explain this, so you figure it out yourself. This lady came to an open manhole. She had a sheaf of papers, she slipped one down, and a hand reached up and got it. Now she's waiting either for a signature or for something else, and then she'll go on to the other sewers on her list. I can't figure out what she was doing. Unless it was a Russian Western Union with a happy birthday message. But now she's got her receipt or his signature or something, and we've never seen any part of him except his hand, and now she's going to go for the rest of her underground messages.
And you never did find out what she does?
Never did. But we can recognize this. Here's a man getting a ticket. And he's trying to talk his way out of it. He's already gotten it, but he just can't stop trying to persuade the officer. And he even tries to appeal to a higher court, you see, the cop. But he's got his ticket, and as usual, the cop comes out on top. So he thanks him, and he gets on his way. The following day, we got a little bit more courageous, and we took our camera and hid it right inside the walls of the Kremlin. Now, we noticed this gigantic cannon is a favorite place for Russian visitors who come to Moscow to see their own capital, as we might come to Washington, stand in front of this cannon and have a state photographer take their portraits. And we hid our own Candid camera in a carton box and stayed behind him to give you this glimpse of the way Russians look for their own portraits. And they never smile. Never. That's against the rule. Here's the father and son, and he's learned not to smile even in his youth. It's not necessarily that they're serious, but that's the way they take a picture, like we used to take an old tintype. Now, this family has a kind of a special interest. It's a Tartar group. They're an Oriental republic, and this little man is going to direct the entire procedure. First, he tries to get his wife to wear that jacket. He says, I paid enough money for that jacket, so let's get it on the picture. But she seems a little reluctant, and he's going to put some pressure on her.
Doesn't even look at him.
But now, in a moment, you'll see why she was reluctant to wear the jacket, because it doesn't fit. So she's going to take in the cuffs while they're posing, and he's got a little wardrobe problem of his own, you know. But he's going to supervise everything.
Does that beanie signify the part of the country from which he comes?
It's a Tartar cap, yes. And now he's going to check his own sleeves, and he's going to try to direct his family. The sister-in-law, he wants her over there. He'll check to see that nobody's smiling. Watch his wife almost smiles for a moment. She's the second lady from the side. And then you see now? Now she'll wipe it off. Watch. Off. Now he's going to see that when the picture is taken, watch, he sort of gives one more glance around to see if anybody was smiling. Look at the little girl has a kind of haircut that makes her able to wear her brother's clothes or her sister's. Notice that the big preoccupation with this picture is that the man wants to be sure there's no one in the background, so he's going to chase everybody from the cannon.
He just wants his family in the picture.
Nobody. He says, we own this cannon as well as everybody else, so let's get nobody in the picture. And he gets so right. Hey, Mac, look at the kid in the white blouse behind you. And he was so preoccupied with that, he almost forgot to look at the camera, but finally they got the picture. One more check to see if anybody else was in it.
They line up to have their pictures taken.
Yes. Now, finally, here's a man with a Napoleonic pose, and he wants the whole cannon in. He says, get the whole cannon in, and then get that hand, get it tucked in this way, and then I want a dozen prints, and sign them all, Love, Ivan, and those are Russian people posing for their own pictures.
Very, very interesting footage, Alan. And you went through this with a little misgivings, did you not?
We were nervous, Durwood. We're all, you know, taking pictures with a hidden camera is challenging anywhere. But
Yes.
we were in a strange country with strange customs. We tried to obey their rules. We were surprised that they allowed us the freedom they did. But as tourists, we were allowed to photograph people, and we were naturally not interested in any of the sensitive areas, so we had things pretty much our own way. But it was scary. And now, if you're ready to start again, we'll continue our tour through Moscow with a Candid camera. This is Gorky Park in Moscow, and in the evening, it's a scene of a teenage dance. And we thought you might be interested in the lively dances and dance music. Jitterbugging is forbidden, strictly forbidden. But they do have a Russian version of something that has a little hacha in it. I don't know what the name of it is.
was all the music played in more or less the same tempo?
No, they were mostly accordions, and they would change it a little bit from time to time. There were so many young men in the Army that frequently the girls danced together, but...
Now, did they pay an admission price to dance here?
I believe this is free. You come there, and the girls come and boys come, and they join and dance, and then they leave after the dance. There are a number of youth supervisors that are in the crowds. And there's always one man in every dance like this fella. He's dancing what we used to call the Y dance.
When you get a girl in your arms like that, why dance?
But you can see that he's not very enthralled either with the dancing or
With her?
with the Now, this is the Lenin Sports Stadium. It's an enormous stadium that has about a capacity of 130,000 people, and this was the day of an American-Russian track meet.
You're eating ice cream?
Oh, ice cream is all over Moscow. It's enormous. Now, these are some of the runners, and you'll notice as we get back to the stands that their response is almost entirely with applause. There's very little shouting, generally quiet.
There's no really complete exultation of really screaming.
Well, they have a different way of expressing approval. It's applause, and then rhythmic applause is when something is really outstanding. Some of these people were watching the high jump. This was a day that the Russian cleared a new world's record. And you can see the disappointment when he misses a jump, you see. These are some Russian GIs. Notice that cigarette? That's a Russian cigarette. The paper is the first couple of inches, and they bend it so it fits the teeth and the hand, the finger grip like that. Here's a typical Russian face. You see, not a sound, but a great deal of applause. Now, this is a department store in Moscow, and this is midsummer. And these people are shopping and buying fur hats at $30 a piece. Now, $30 is equivalent to the average Russian's monthly wage. So you can imagine that this is a fairly important purchase.
You mean he's spending what he makes in 1 month on that headgear?
Well, the salaries are not really quite the same as ours, but it is a considerable amount of money, and he's getting a great deal of assistance from his wife. He's going to be real careful about this purchase. Notice the haircut. Here is one of the few men and one of the few moments when we were actually spotted in Moscow, and you might just get ready for this. The cameraman dropped a magazine, and it made a loud noise. And this fellow with the fur cap now turned around and suddenly spotted us. And he seemed to take it rather good-naturedly. Now, this is the Moscow subway. It's an escalator entrance to the subway. And here we tried an experiment that we did once before in a New York subway, and that is the experiment of reading over a man's shoulder. Now,
yes.
I am going to be wearing this Russian hat just to try to get by.
I recognized
You got that away from him so easily.
Well, you'll notice that reading over somebody's shoulder in Moscow is quite easy, but the real professional over-the-shoulder reader is never satisfied when he gets somebody else's paper. He still wants to read over their shoulder. Notice this little fella absolutely refuses to recognize my existence even if I sit in his lap. Apparently, it's a kind of a sin in a public place to refuse to share anything. So, this man not only gives me his newspaper, but I think he begins a news report for me, you see.
I love your gesture there. It indicates to us that you understand exactly what he's talking about.
How stoical they are. Now that I've got his paper, it's going to be mine. Now, this man looks a little dejected to begin with. And when I try to read his paper, notice how glumly he just passes it over. He acts as though the news was bad anyhow. And that's the Moscow Times.
You look interested in a newspaper that you can't read the printing?
Oh, not for me. I was so scared it wasn't hard for me to look interested in anything.
Alan, did all of these people, did any of them realize that you were Americans?
I'm sure. Americans are immediately distinguishable in almost every inch. The shoes are different, the haircut is different,
By
the
their dress,
wristwatch,
yeah.
everything about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they knew that we were Americans. In these next scenes, we use the help of a couple of American school teachers who are visiting Moscow, and they'll help us film the Russian counterpart of an experiment with a valise full of rocks. Now, you may remember that we tried this in London and Paris as well as in New York.
Yeah.
So, let's go back to Paris. Here, a French model is trying to get a stranger to help carry her valise to the corner. Now, of course, none of these people know that the valise is full of rocks and weighs over 200 pounds. The second man takes a try, and then he tries to explain that he just doesn't seem to be able to negotiate it. Now, perhaps this next passerby might volunteer some help, but he doesn't. So the first stranger seems to suggest he better get a bigger guy.
Do you think you could just carry this to the corner for me?
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.
All right, I don't know if it is a pleasure, really, but it's... Right, how far do you want to go?
Just to the corner.
All right.
Could you possibly help me carry the bag to the corner?
Which, this way? Or
This
here?
one?
Yes, I don't mind. Oh, I see why. Oh,
Do you think you could carry this just to the corner for
indeed,
me?
certainly. Oh, good gracious me. You come on the other side, will you? Whatever have you got? Now, I'm not being inquisitive, but really.
We'll go to Russia now and see how they react to this valise full, in this case, of concrete blocks. It weighs enough so that it's almost a trick to get it off the ground. Now, all we need is a young lady, and this happens to be a school teacher from Ohio. She has an empty valise, and she's going to try to get this Russian to help her with a bag just a few blocks to the corner. Now, start the excuses, and you can see them in pantomime. I'm going this way, I haven't got the time, and see you later. Now, we told this young lady to be sure not to pick on any small people because we didn't want them to strain themselves, so she got this great big husky guy, and I thought he could pick her up and the valise and the car if he had to. He looked about 6'4", and he finally got the message, and now we're off.
He was big and willing.
There were plenty who just passed her by. This man gets an assist from his wife. Well, first he realizes it's a pretty tough job, and now his wife begins to alibi. He's busy, he hurt his arm, I got work for him to do at home, and so off they go.
Gestures are the same the world over, aren't they?
Yes, indeed. This young man was really willing, not very able, though. Watch. Now, if you should ever be in Moscow and run into a man wearing pajamas like this with woolly hair, I suggest that you give him a wide berth. Watch the way he picks this up.
Oh, boy. 250 pounds.
Now, finally, this man with a bag. He was either a mailman or he might have been just a civilian shopping. They frequently use bags like that to put their provisions in. And he listens attentively, and I think he gets the message. And I guess according to the custom, the woman should at least do some share of the work. So he decides that she's going to carry something. Now he's going to transfer the load, and there she has her part. And now watch.
Oh, boy.
And it's a good thing we came out and took this away because he'd never give up otherwise. Now these are Russian children. We photographed these youngsters in a department store where they sell only clothing and toys for children. This is the sailor. And now watch the army man. And this next fella must want to be a glider pilot. He's going to brag to his mother that he can fly, and she tells him to come down.
Sweet little face.
It's adorable.
Got it to laugh.
And once again, you see the youngsters with ice cream. They have so much ice cream. That's a pacifier, I guess. This is a girl. They often have this haircut that looks almost like this pair of twins. This young man with the beanie hat really broke himself up. We were kind of good friends in about 2 minutes, and he almost fell over and dropped the ice cream on his mother's lap. And then when he looked back again, he almost fell right out of his seat. Whoops. Now, the man in this picture didn't want to come to this party in the first place. Second place, he doesn't like ice cream. And his father just bought some from him, and he's trying to unload it. Yet. No, sorry.
This just wasn't his day.
And I think this final scene will help underscore some of the differences in this world that we photographed.
What are they doing there?
This is a 9-year-old girl in an amusement park. And this is amusement.
Oh?
Moscow style.
Yes?
Now, she's come there, she's paid a little something for this ride. And in this amusement park where it's quiet, no noise at all, watch this ride.
Oh.
Oh, boy, I get...
And that's fun?
And not a sound. Now, these two boys ride together, and there isn't a sound in all of this amusement park. And that's how we say goodbye to Moscow.
Fascinating films.
You know, it'd be hard to finish this program without mentioning that Mike Zingali and Pat Chazzini, who were along on this trip, and we were as small a crew as we've ever used, they all shared the burdens and the tribulations and the rewards of this trip. They did a wonderful job.
You should all be so proud. I know I am, just knowing it. I mean...
And that completes our brief visit to Moscow.
Now, we're a little late, so there's only time to say that next week, the Candid Camera will be back home again. So don't be surprised if somewhere out of nowhere, someone steps up to you and says,
Smile. You're on Candid Camera.
"Good night, everybody."